Okay, hello everybody, welcome to my channel. I am Moody, and what we're going to do today is we're going to try and break down a foot and sculpt it and show you guys roughly how I go about doing something like that. So the first thing we're going to do is break down the actual foot into some basic shapes. I mean, you can do this many types of ways, but we're just going to break it down into some basic shapes so that we understand the form and the shape of the foot. And then we're going to go ahead and I'll cut the camera off. We'll do a block out of the foot. I'll cut the camera off again, and then we'll sculpt one up, and I might time lapse it depending on how we're doing for time on the video. So right, let's get into this and we'll start breaking down the shape of the foot. So I'm sure that we're all familiar with footprints. So the reason that footprints look the way they do, let's go ahead and say there's your big toe, next one, and there's our little pinky, and then we have this type of shape here. This is very rough. Then we have this type of shape here. Maybe the ball would be down here, the heel. So we're all familiar with this type of shape of the footprint. Now the reason our footprints make this type of shape is because these are the contact points that hit the floor on the foot. So by that I mean that the arch inside here, this is usually raised a little bit. So let's actually chuck some shapes down, or draw some shapes over the top of this. So let's go for this foot here. So we've got our ankle here, which is we'll just draw that as a circle for now, and we'll have like, this is I don't want to say a hinge because you can rock your foot this way, but let's say that this is, let's just draw that in now. So we've got like a cylinder shape, and let's turn this down a tiny bit. And then, yeah, so here we've got the shape, the ball of the foot here. So, the heel of the foot will be here. We've got underneath this as well. So there's a bunch of bones in here. So these are metacarpals, I think. I can't remember if they're metacarpals or metatarsals. And these are your phalanges, right? So underneath all of that is, well, that's what the bones look like. We'll go to that in a minute. But what I want to do is try and break this down into shapes. So we've got one type of shape here, which will be almost like this. Again, this is just my way of doing it. So we've got like an almost like half cone shape there, and then coming off of that, we'll have like a sort of block here, and then the phalanges here. So we'll have another shape here, and we'll have our big toe there. Now the reason I haven't coloured this part in is because this isn't skeletal here. This is a pad. And it's the same for the heel. You'd be surprised how much fat you've got around the outside of your heel. So that will be our, let's change it to a different colour. So we'll go blue for any padding. So the padding of the heel goes round and underneath, a bit like a half a donut or like a half a torus. Then you've got a bunch of padding down here on this side. And this will go around underneath the foot as well. So this will tuck underneath the foot here, which is where the footprint comes from, like this part of the footprint here that we were talking about earlier, with the toes up here. And then under each toe, you've got padding as well, which is, and again, this is like shock absorption for the foot. So yeah, we've got our basic shapes here. So we'll have one big one here. We'll have another one here, because this is going to represent sort of like, I'll show you actually. So what I mean by a lot of this is that if you look at this is the outside of the foot here. So here's where our pad will be on our heel, and that'll be nicely filled in. Then from here we'll have another big chunk of pad that comes around here to this first joint, because this is where the toes bend from. And then again we'll have pads under each of these to cover our feet, right? So if this is the underside here, then our pads are going to go here. They're going to come all the way around here, and all of these joints here are going to have padding underneath as well, because that's where a lot of the impacts of our foot are going to be. This outside edge here and this sort of side of the foot here is for stability, and the inside here where the arch sort of comes in Okay, this is for flexibility, so this is going to give our foot some flexibility on the rock, on the bend here. So yeah, and this is all padding around the outside here. So yeah, this is all the padding around the foot, and then we'll have one under each. Well, it's a little bit more complex than that, but we'll have one under there, one under there, one under there, one under there. So that's kind of like, that explains the footprint. But if we draw over this and try and add the shape of the foot itself, there'll be this will be the outside of the ankle. The foot will come around here. Then we'll have the flat side here around the outside. We'll have the foot coming across there like that, and this is where all of the toes will be. And again, there we go. So we'll break this down into shapes here again, just one more time so you can see it. But overall, I would say from about there, we'll cover this portion of the foot. Well, we'll go to here, and that's that section of the foot there. We'll break this down again into another square, and then we've got this here, the outside of the foot, sorry, the outside of the toes, and then we'll have the big toe on the outside. So I don't really know if there's much more to it to break it down into shapes. So if we quickly draw one of these, but as a actual sort of like shapes of the foot. So we'll kind of try and do one from here, this type of angle here. So we'll go so, and again, that's going to be the first shape. This is going to be this section here. We'll have another section here, which is going to be like the front part of that, but it's going to dip down. Oh, it's going to dip forward and down a little. So there's like another box there, and then the front of it will have our toes and everything like that there. So again, roughly broken down. This is gonna hide this. There's our heel behind it there. So we can still see that shape here. So there's the sort of like ball of our foot. We can see it come round to the top, and then because it dips in under here, we'll see the outside of the foot there. And then we've got, like I said, that shape over there over the top of it. This extra shape here that's going to be where our toes come from. And then obviously we've got all of our toes here. Now there's a lot of flexibility in the foot this way. So if you're going to draw a foot that's kind of relaxed, you're going to end up with this type of shape on the toes. But it'll be, do you know what, it'll be more like when a hand is relaxed, you know. So there's our big toe, there's our next one. And it kind of rolls down a little like that. It only flattens out and stretches out this way when the foot is flat on the floor. So that's taking the weight is to sort of like bend in, take the weight, spread the weight of the foot around across all of the pads underneath here and stuff like that. So I don't really know if you could probably break it down. I saw someone break it down a bit like this. So they had like a long section of the foot like this, and this would be the outside of it. Again, this is to break it down even more simply, and then on top of this here, from there, you'll have like a kind of almost like a triangle or a wedge triangle shape there, and then here you'll have like a rotation, so it'll be like a disc there with the bone coming up the top of it, and your ankle joint will be around here somewhere. So this is to rotate backwards and forwards like so. This is the outside pad of the foot to take the weight, and then again obviously you'll have your toes and your phalanges sticking out here. So it's about breaking it down into shapes as simply as possible, so that it's more so that we understand the shape of the foot. I would say some of the more important things are understanding this arch in here and how that works. So this arch in here, I would say that you would need to know that these are the main sections here of the entire foot, and then obviously the rest of it's broken down into, you know, cylinders for the phalanges here. So yeah, I would say they're your main part. Oh, and the heel that comes behind it, you know. So the other main part would be this heel here, and just understanding it there. Again, knowing that there's fat at the bottom of these for shock absorption as well. And I guess that knowing a little bit, again, not a lot, I don't know an awful lot about the anatomy of these things, especially skeletal stuff, but I think as long as you have an idea of what's there and you understand how it moves, then it puts you in a better position to sculpt it. So for example, when there's weight on the foot, you know, this part here is going to take the weight, and depending on how much weight you put on it, these joints are going to start to sort of like ever so slightly nudge over and make room for these joints to sort of fit into, you know. So it's about the foot being able to move and bend and take weight and just, you know, flex, particularly this way. So there'll be a joint here allowing it to bend up and down like this. You'll get a little bit of that sort of like here, you'll get some of this rotation, and it will spread as well, sort of like left and right to sort of like take weight of the foot. And here, although I've drawn it as a cylinder here, this actually gives you a little bit of roll. So on this part of the leg, you get a little bit of roll. You'll get quite a bit of roll that way around the ankles, you know, so here and here. So you get a bit of roll that way, and you get a particularly decent amount of roll this way for when you're walking. So it's just understanding roughly what's in there and how they affect the actual, you know, shape of the foot. And like I said, just do a rough study and try and understand what's under there. I couldn't tell you what all these bones are called. I couldn't tell you what the tendons and muscles are called. But it's just about having an understanding of the actual shapes that go into creating this thing, a foot. So with that being said, I'll pause this and I'll restart the camera again so we can get into a block out of the foot. And just yeah, start roughing in some shapes and see what we can do inside of Nomad. So yeah, I'm going to stop this, stop the camera, and then we'll move on to the next part. Okay. Okay, so for the second part, what we're going to do is we're going to try and use some basic shapes inside of Nomad to block out a foot, and you know, just see if we can take what we did in the first part of this and apply it to just basic shapes in order to you know, to have a base to sculpt on. So let's go ahead and firstly add some shapes to here. So I think we're going to need a box. Yeah, so we'll need a box, which we can use to duplicate a few times. Let's actually make sure that it's not too high. We'll probably be, let's do the bulk of this first. So we'll validate that. So what we want to do is we want to try and create this shape here, the footprint shape. So I think what we'll do first is we'll scale this down using the widget. So let's get it roughly to a shape that's, you know, consistent with the base of a foot. So I think we need this to be a bit smaller. We'll come out to the top. And then I think what we're going to do is we're going to trim out the arch of the foot. So let's set this to dynamic topology just for a minute. We don't want symmetry on. So I'm going to try and cut this into the shape of a footprint almost. So let's try. Let's just see what we end up with. So we'll firstly take out the heel, the arch of the foot. I think we'll then come around the we'll then come around the outside to start chopping into that. We'll maybe take a little piece off the corners here just to give us the shape. And then we're going to start moving this around. Let's just pull this around into our positions that we need. Okay, so we've got our heel. We're going to want that to come. So the toe is going to be forward. It's going to be the largest part. It's going to be here, because you remember our footprint was like around here and then up here to the heel. So I think we'll do that. We'll do that. We're going to flip this over because I like the other side better. Yeah, I think that is almost good enough. And what we'll do is we'll trim this up as well so that it's nice and flat. Let's get that off of there. Let's get that off of there. I'll remesh this. And there's our sort of like first shape, if you want, of the we might even be able to come in a little on the middle there, but there's generally our first shape of the foot. So what we want to do now is we want to build this part here up. So we're gonna want to come around here, under here, and put that on. So let's do that. Let's add another square. So I would say overall that comes to maybe about here, because like you can see the bottom of the foot actually goes under and then this part starts here. So if we get this guy down there, start filling up the space a little. Now I keep going to move it with my fingers and back because I've been using the tablet again. So with all of that in, let's go ahead and start trimming this up. So we'll start with the side view. So we want a sort of triangle shape. So what we'll do, let's trim this guy up. So first of all, he's a bit steep. He's not. We're not going to get that far up. So let's cut some of that off. We'll use the line tool to cut some of this off back to here. So we've created that sort of like, and we're really simplifying this. We're going to have to add a decent amount of sculpting to this. We're going to have to fluff it out quite a lot. It's not quite on center. I think it's slightly off center towards one side. And I also think that we'll remesh it. We'll add the dyno topology. I'm going to chop into this a little bit just to give us the shapes that we're looking for. So what I want to do is I want to continue this shape up just a tiny bit. So I'm just going to chop into that there. That's going to give us that. So we've continued the arch up under the foot a little bit, and again, this is because this is just a block out. You don't have to be super like, you know, you don't have to be super careful with it. We did forget to turn off symmetry, so we'll fix some of this edge a little. Okay, so there's that. I think we'll add a shape here. We could probably just pull some of that back. Yeah, we'll just pull some of that back. So some of this is just going to be to fill the space. But again, you know, you can be more careful with this, but like we're really just trying to fill the space and make sure that it's, you know, there's enough meat there if you want to actually sculpt this guy. So we'll put the trim tool back on, come to the top. Let's cut some of that out. That's not terrible. I mean, again, look, if we move away from it, you can almost see the foot shape coming together. This might be a little thick. So let's take that back up. Let's add a block for the big toe. So another thing to make note of, I guess, would be that the top of this really, let's cut it into a shape first. The big toe was what I was going to say. The big toe actually only has 2 knuckles in it, and the rest of them will have 3. 1, 2, 3, and the big toe only has 2. 1 and 2 there. And I think that's for stability. I could be wrong, but I believe that is for stability. So let's cut this toe into roughly into a shape that we can use. And then we'll add another, let's duplicate that and we'll cut that into shape. So let's clone this, move it back, scale it down, or no, actually we won't do that. We'll scale it in a tiny bit and we'll trim off anywhere we don't need. So let's trim that off there, we'll trim that off there, we'll trim that off there. Now we're going to do that so we can flip it over. Boom, boom, that's flipped. And there's our first toe. What we're going to do with the second batch of toes is we're going to actually just do them in one block. I think that toe probably needs to be a little bigger. And we'll do the rest of these in one block. So let's get one more block in there. We'll validate that. So again, these are going to be slightly smaller. I think the big toe's too big as well. Let's get those up. So we can, let's actually do that now. So look, remember we said earlier with the footprints, the toes and the balls here, that's because the actual join of the toe is a little bit higher, so we've got like an arch in here. Let's get this sorted. So another thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to start roughly just a bit shorter than this toe, so I'm going to trim it down this way. Because we want it to fall off, the toes get smaller and smaller, so let's trim that off. So let's turn off symmetry as well. And I feel like we're not too far away. So we do need to, so the middle toe is usually a bit shorter than the big toe. But again, everyone's feet are different, right? So I think what we'll do, we'll go about the same size-ish as the big toe. And then we're gonna come in a little tiny bit, and we're gonna trim off down into here to make the shape of the toes. So if you see the toes come back and they follow the shape of the of this part of the foot. So let's do that. Let's cut in to about there. And I would say that that is all of the, it's a bit thin. But I would say that that's all of the shapes you really need to potentially start sculpting the foot. If we bring this over and scale it down a little, you can see that it's very nearly there. I would say it probably needs to go a bit more chunky even. But you can see how close that really is. That's not far off. Probably needs to be a tiny bit wider. But overall, that is not bad for a block out of a foot. What we can do from here, we'll do, so that we're not just doing a foot, let's actually add one more thing. So let's add a cylinder. Where are you? And we're going to pop some, we're going to pop the leg in. Ooh. So I think we'll level this guy back out. So what I should have probably done here is moved the reference image rather than move the model. So that will do. We're going to take this, we'll validate that. So this is going to give us a rough idea of where the ankles are going to go. Let's make it a little taller. So we're going to sculpt some of this down anyway. But there I think is a decent-ish block out of a foot. We've got the rough shapes in. We've got, I think, enough volume to actually get this sculpting. It's not bad. I would say that maybe this part here could come out further, but we can work on that when we sculpt it. Let's just do a couple of little things here while we've got it. So we're going to try and just get the rough shape of the leg. Let's turn all that off. it's going to start to sort of like shift out slowly from the back, just ever so slightly. That's going to have a nice arch there. I think that we need to bring this forward a little to create that same sort of bow here, because look, if you see here, I don't really think there are straight lines in the human body. So that's just worth bearing in mind if you've got like straight lines in your sculpt, depending on what you're trying to do. I would say that it probably doesn't belong there. Like, again, I'm not, you know, there's a lot of situations where it might be, you know, just valid, I guess, to have straight lines. But usually I would say there isn't a straight line on the human body. Most organic things don't have straight lines on them. So let's save this, because again, this has just been a rough block to try and get the shapes in that we might need. But yeah, you get the idea. I don't think that we need to go too crazy. We'll sort that out when we get to the sculpting. But yeah, there it is. There's our block out of a foot. It could probably be better. I think when we get to sculpting this, we'll sort of like worry about, you know, adding in the depth between the toes here. You know, like in there. We'll worry a bit more about that when we get to sculpting. How these toes are going to be spaced out, like 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, so we've got, I think, a decent amount of space to do everything we need. Yeah, okay, let's save it, restart the video, and then we'll get into sculpting this foot up into an actual foot. Right, okay, back with the final part. We're going to join all this together. I might duplicate it and then do another pose with it. We'll see how we're doing for time. So yeah, so you might also notice the lighting's changed a little. It's getting dark really early where I am. So yeah, and also if you can hear like weird munching and chewing sounds, that's my little doggy having her dinner. So I thought I'd better feed her now, maybe have a cup of coffee, and you know, got all that sorted. Also want to thank my girlfriend for giving me some lovely Christmas decorations to put around the sculpt here. I'm not normally one for stuff on my desk, but you know, looks nice for the video, so you guys can thank my girlfriend for that. When my doggy's done eating, I might show you how like Christmassy the dog looks now as well, but it might be a bit early, but I don't know. Anyway, let's get this thing moving, and if the doggy finishes and decides to come and sit over here by me, I've got her bed down here, then I'll pick her up and I'll show her to the camera, and you guys can see what she looks like. She's a very cute little doggy, but she's a little S word for sure. Okay, so let's join all of these together. Let's get this thing moving. So I'm just going to join these so that I've got the option to separate them and work with the pieces individually still. We'll call this foot 1. We'll duplicate it. I think we've got so foot and foot 2. Let's do that. Okay. So we've got, what is it doing? I think I named the wrong one. Okay, we'll call this foot 1. Okay, so we've got foot 1 and foot 2. We'll hide that for a minute. Come here, girl. Do you want to see the camera? Come here, Flo. Flo, come here. Hey. Come here. Come here, girl. You want to see the people? There she is. Christmassy doggy. I'm not going to bark at anyone. Christmassy doggy. Nice little cute Christmassy doggy. You good, girl? You Christmas dog? You enjoy your dinner. Alright, go and get in your bed and don't make any noise, bro. Right, so that's my Christmassy dog. She might be wandering around for a minute, but just ignore her. I'll try and avoid her barking, but Anyway, where were we? So foot one, we're going to sculpt this into just a normal foot standing, and we might do a secondary pose on that, we'll see. So let's go ahead and do a voxel merge on this so that we can just start sculpting it. Voxel, don't want to go crazy, that'll do. And we'll do Dyalla topology. And let's start sculpting this up into a foot. I think firstly what I'm going to do, shush flow. Firstly I'm going to smooth it out a little, get some of these shapes blended together. Oh, of course, 1 second. Flo, no, Flo, leave your toys alone for now. You're going to get your toys in a minute. She might start squeaking. She's going to start squeaking with her toy. Fair enough. What am I going to do? So you can already see this taking shape a little. It's already starting to look like a foot. I think something I should have probably done here is move this big toe out of the way a little bit, but I don't think it matters too much for now. So as you can see, we need to get rid of some of this here. So we want this to sort of like flow a little bit, and we also want this bone, this foot, this toe here to be connected here. So we need this to come out a little more here and be rounded more at the top. We could probably do with a bit more meat on the front of the foot here, coming down to all of the phalanges. So let's fill that out a little. I think we're going to smooth this out a bit more. So what we're basically doing at this point is just taking all of the shapes we've made to build the sort of base of the foot, and we're just smoothing them out into what we really need. So the outside of the foot here, for example, comes down a lot more. This is sort of like arched up like that, and we don't really have that at the moment. So let's add some of that. We need like an arch here. So we need it to kind of come down over the top of that a little. And we need this to be chopped out a tiny bit, so we'll take some of that out. So we're trying to make that arch shape here and trying to sort of like you know, add the meat to where it's meant to be. I think we've come a little bit deep here. This might be a bit too much foot underneath, but we'll see. I think it is a bit too much foot. Let's just chop some of this off the bottom. Let's get that trim tool going again. What that does mean is though is that we'll have to sort of sculpt in a little bit. I mean, let's do this actually, rather than trim it off. Let's do this, and we'll squash it up and remesh it. So I feel like maybe there's a little nicer. Let's put it onto a smooth. There we go. And we'll get rid of some of that depth on the foot, and we've still managed to keep that nice sort of like shape underneath, you know, where the toes are. Okay, I think that's not too bad. It's made the toes look a little thin, but we can sculpt those back up in a little while. I think we need to chop into here a little and bulk out in there a little, so let's do that. Let's chop away some of that. Smooth that out. start adding in and bulking up and just putting in some like some sort of start working on the padding under the foot, because the foot at the bottom of the foot's looking a bit flat at the moment. Yeah, that's not too bad. The ankle's looking a little wide, so I think what we'll do is we'll chop in under here and start bringing, I think the ankle might be a bit low, so we'll chop into here and start shaping up the ankles a little bit. So let's go back to that. I think this all looks a little... Flo, shush. I want to get the lighting to follow. There we go. So what I did there, because I was struggling with the back there. If you go to your lighting settings here, go down to the bottom, you're going to attach it to the camera, and that means the light's always behind the camera. Just handy. So let's start working this heel up a little bit. Well, let's just rounding off this heel a little bit more, because it feels too square right now. And like the heel, if you look here, it kind of goes up and over into this point where all the tendons connect to the back of the heel. So what we'll do actually is we'll put those tendons in so we know where we're working to. Let's get this here going a little. And we're going to go over like we did before to create that volume down the sides here, to fill it out a little and just bring that shape out. I think again here's a big corner, so we're going to cut that in there, chop into some of that heel there. We're going to do the same on the outside because the heel is going to follow this sort of shape here and around, so we'll do the same here. We'll get rid of that nice chunk on the corner there. And we'll start creating that sort of almost teardrop shape around the heel. Flo, shush, don't start barking, bruv. This heel's probably a little too high as well, so we'll chop some of that out and we'll create that shape for the ankle here as well. So there's tendons running down the front of the foot too, so you don't want too sharp of an angle here, because there are tendons that run through here and connect each part of the for mobility on the foot, for the tilt this way. So there are tendons running through here, and there's obviously tendons here for the same thing. So we'll finish shaping up this heel a little, and then we'll go to here and we'll sort of like, that'll be the roughed in type of shape of the foot. This heel sticks out, this knuckle sticks out a bit too much here, sorry, the ankle. Yep, okay. So I'm trying to do this quickly because I don't want to take too much time up on it. I want to spend a bit of time sculpting it up and cleaning it so that you can see what this turns into. There we go. So we've got that kind of teardrop shape on the heel. I don't mind this so much. It might be a bit much, but it's nice to have this here because it shows us weight spreading around the foot. So there would be one of these fat pads here, like I showed you at the beginning. That's on the outside. So if you're standing on it, this is going to be sort of compressed and spread out a little. So I don't mind that too much. Let's add some of this meat at the front here, because like I said, there's tendons running through the front of the foot. So we'll just block those in a little here. Flo, do you have to, bro? Making it difficult. Good girl. Okay, so I don't think that's far off. We'll cut some shapes into the toes real quick using the crease tool. I might cut the video again because that'll be the block out done, and then we'll do like a fresh video for the actual sculpt. So I want to get this shape back in under the toes. So they kind of do this. This is going to be like an arch, but it's going to be slightly off center. Our pads are going to be, there'll be one pad here, which will be a big pad there. There'll be another big pad here, and then you get like a type of upside down triangle shape here, which is like a pad for the middle. Oh, a pad for the middle section. So if we turn it to the side, you can see where I'm going with this. And then obviously this big pad around here that we've already sort of cut in a little. And then there's obviously a pad around the heel. And now that is kind of the rough sort of areas of concern, let's say, around the foot. What we can do here, again, because like I said, I like this fat pad on the foot, is we could move some of that out to show that the weight is spreading. This pad's been sort of like mushed and spread outways. So we can move some of that out there. Push that up a tiny bit. So there's a rough block out of the foot. Oh, we've got to finish adding the toes. And then yeah, we'll. So I keep banging the microphone. Oh, so I do have another microphone now. Hopefully this one's a slightly better quality of recording. But yeah, a friend of mine, he said I could have a microphone. He had a few. He made a short film recently, and he had a few left over. The short film, I don't know if he's going to be. I don't think he'll be upset about it. The film's done. It's out. But yeah, he's made a short horror movie about a video game, and it's called Demo N, and it's a really cool little project. He's actually done a really good job on it. I think he surprised everybody, so kudos to that man. But yeah, he's a really good guy. He worked on my team for a little while when we were animating for a children's TV show, and he's a really good guy. And he basically said that I can have, because he obviously heard the audio quality on my videos, I think, and I was moaning about it in a group chat that I'm in, saying, oh yeah, my microphone's so bad, and he was very, very kind and said that I could have one of the mics that was left over from the shoot. So thank you very much indeed, sir. I have much love for him. He's a good guy. Yeah, and also go and check out his short film. I don't know if that's anything that you guys might be into, but yeah, he's done an amazing job on it, and he made it with like a shoestring budget. So yeah, kudos to that guy, and thank you very much indeed, sir, for my microphone. I appreciate you. So yeah, like I said, hopefully it's better quality. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Hopefully it's not picking up every single tap when I tap the microphone or when I tap the screen. And yeah, thank you very much indeed, sir. I appreciate you. You're a gentleman for letting me have the microphone. So anyway, back to the foot. I'm just blocking in some areas, sort of working out where the toes are going. I feel like the big toes are a little short. I feel like all the toes are a little short. So let's quickly fix that. Let's get that last little bit cut in there. I think what we might do, let's remesh this, but give it a higher mesh count so that we can actually see what we're working with. Let's go like nearly 200. Oh wait, that's the top. Let's do it like, let's go a bit more. Let's just see what we end up with. Okay. So I think we'll quickly smooth some of this out, make these shapes a little bit more determined, a little bit more defined, sorry. And yeah, we'll then cut the video off and start doing a proper sculpt on this foot. Just want to make sure that I've got all of the base shapes in, so I think that's going to go. These are dipping down a little. I mean, this works, but I think if it's almost like he's preparing to step. So if your toes are dipped in, that means that there's pressure here because you're about to roll your foot off and put the weight onto these. I just want to do a relaxed foot, so we're going to fill these in a little, bring up these shapes. Let's smooth that big toe off around the top. Yeah, it's not looking too bad. So I think there's the big toe is bothering me. I want it to be more like rounded like this, because you know the toe comes off the top, then it comes down and under. It's a bit like a thumb, you know, like it's the thumb of the foot. The thumb of the foot. But yeah, it was a weird shape. It was a bit too square. I think we want to build this up, maybe lift all that up a tiny bit. Same here, we've got a dip in the middle of the foot there, which feels weird. So let's start pulling all this up a tiny bit. Let's bring these out. So there we go. I mean, that isn't bad. Let's cut in one more time around the toes so that we've got them and we know where they're going. Another thing to think about as well is that these toes all go down in size, so they slightly tuck underneath each other a little bit. So you know, that's why I'm doing it. Like, you'll see the outside of this toe will be pressing up underneath this toe a little bit. Maybe not to the degree I've done it there, but they're all going to be slightly pushing towards underneath of the previous toe. So that's that. Let's get these shapes cutting at the top, and then we'll pause the video. What's it been, like 20 minutes? Yeah. Okay, there we go. So we've kind of got roughly a foot. That's not terrible. Yeah, that's not terrible. I think the heel's a little bit, maybe a tiny bit more out there, and then I think we'll call it. Yeah, because the heel's coming around a little bit here and it looks a bit weird. So the heel was cut in on that side underneath. Let's quickly work on the leg a tiny bit. What we'll do is we'll cut that off at the top, so we're not worried about it. And I think that'll do for now. So there's our base sculpt of the foot, which doesn't look too bad. I think we're getting there. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, so there it is. Let's call it there for a second. I'll reset the camera so we don't run out of time, and then we'll do a final sculpt, and maybe I'll even time-lapse some of it. But there's our base sculpt of the foot. So we've done breakdown of the foot, we've blocked it out, we've base sculpted it, and just put all of the final sort of like chunks of fat in there, and got rid of some of those sharp edges and everything. So yeah, all right, we'll be back shortly. Well, for you it'll be instant, but for me it'll be a few minutes because I'm going to grab a coffee. So yeah, one second, guys. Okay, so this should be the last part of this. Let's sculpt this foot up a little bit. So let's smooth out what we've got. Start adding some toenails, I guess. Maybe some detail on some of the bones that are underneath the foot. Yeah, okay, let's go. So let's turn that down a little because I want to smooth some of this out. Let's turn that. There we go. So this just gives us an idea of, you know, the foundations that we've sculpted into it, how they look, are they working? Gives us that type of information. So, for instance, I can see there's a bit of a divot there. We'll fix that in a little bit. Sorry if I seem a little out of breath. I just went and took the Poochie for a walk. She started sitting by the door. And that usually means I'm about to pee or poop on your carpet if you don't take me out. So out she went. So yeah, just a quick wander around the block into the shops. And she is on the sofa chilling out. She's a little old lady. She doesn't look it, but she's actually a little old lady. Yeah, she gets tired pretty quickly, so just a quick wander around the block was more than enough for her. What do we have going on here with this ankle? This ankle feels a little wide, but it also needs to come down a little, I think. Yeah, that looks a bit better. I mean, you can kind of see from the images, the outside ankle is kind of a little more pronounced anyway. The inside, not so much. And it also feels like the outside feels a little lower than the inside. So let's just, you know, chop away a little bit. I mean, the reference is showing me what the reference is showing me. So, yeah. Sorry about the sniffles, guys. Like I said, it's a bit chilly out there. Oh, and the reason I'm wearing a hat today is because my hair is just, it's got a little out of control. So, yeah, I'm covering that up for now. I will get it cut, but yeah, just not yet. Can he be bothered right now? It's just hair, but it also looks atrocious, so I'd rather just cover it up than deal with all that. Why is it not switching? Gosh darn it. There we go. So yeah, I mean, like, I kind of don't want to go quiet for too long because I don't want to do loads of editing with the music and stuff, but excuse me, we're really just, you know, cleaning up some of the areas that we were working on earlier, sort of smoothing them out a little, defining these areas a little more. So like here, for example, I don't like the way that comes out, so we'll smooth that in. So we'll push that in a little. And that's just to define this ankle and this tendon at the back here. I feel like here on the inside here we could probably fill some of that out and bring this out a tiny bit more, I think. Let's have a look at it from the top. Yeah, I think this whole section here could probably come over a tiny bit. And maybe up, just to give it a little, just to sort of push that arch over a little more, you know. And I think, yeah, like here from the inside here, you can tell that it's kind of, although she's rolled her foot out, you can tell there's supposed to be a bit more meat here, I think. Ooh. So let's get that in. Also bearing in mind we need this bone to come through the foot here, so I want that to be that's what I need. Let's go with that. Sorry, I was trying to get this so I could see it a bit clearer because it had some pretty high reflectancy on it and it was making it difficult to see some of the shapes. So yeah, here we go. I mean, I think this isn't too far off. Let's move some of this back out. Push some, so there are like tendons and things through the foot here, so we could push some of that into it a little, I think. It's not switching when I tap it, it's like, I don't know, it's just misbehaving a little. Smooth that off there so there's less of an abrupt edge for underneath the feet. I mean, this isn't far off now, I don't think. We need to, then we can start working on the toes. How long have we been doing this? It's just 5 minutes. Okay. Right, let's work on the toes a little. Sorry about the sniffles, guys. The poochie needed to go. Okay. Look at that toe from the top. Yeah, the big toe looks pretty good. This might be a little steep. Okay, so I think that we're at a point now where I'm going to add a little bit more mesh to this and start sculpting in a bit of detail, particularly around the toes. Okay, so let's add these joints up here. First of all, let's turn up the topology a little bit. To like 300 because I want to have a decent amount of topology around the. Actually, we don't need to do that yet. I want to, when I get to the actual toes, I want a decent amount of topology, some decent topology to work with when I'm sculpting the toenails up and things like that. So, all right, let's do this. So remembering that there's a knuckle here, and there'll probably be like another maybe knuckle shape there. Now let's add some of these other ones in. So yeah, another knuckle there, maybe another one there. So again, this is like slowly plotting out some of the areas that I want to have some shape to the foot. Like you can see here, that's the biggest knuckle there. So this part here is going to be the larger one, and then you can see there's another sort of dip there. So I just want to get these shapes in. There's kind of a like chunk here which is partly bone as well, so what we'll do is we'll sculpt in a little bit there and sort of like try and plump out around there a little, and then we'll do this, we'll connect that. So I'm just trying to get those larger sort of knuckle shapes here from the bones that are underneath the foot here. So I think we'll smooth that over and see what we end up with. That doesn't look too bad there. So I'm going to turn this down a little because I don't want to lose too much of the volume that I've put there. So I may have overdone it here, but that's fine because we wanted that like lump there to sort of appear, you know. So the fact that we've sort of got that divot there gives us an idea of where it should be anyway. So from the breakdown we did earlier, the foot kind of comes around here. So yeah, just trying to fill up some of that space to give us that that shape under here that we're looking for. Right, let's give that a little smooth out. And that, to be honest, isn't looking too bad. Smooth some of this off a little, and then we'll sort of try and chop in these longer again I can't remember if they're metacarpals or metatarsals. So we're just trying to push some of that shape in there again. How long have we got? We've been on for 13 minutes. That's not terrible. Let's lift some of that up again. Okay, so let's give ourselves a little bit more topology to play with, and we'll sculpt up a couple of these toes, and then I might time lapse the last bit, I don't know, we'll see how long it takes. So let's start with the big toe. So I think I want to, when it switch, I want to get an idea of where the big toe's going to go, like the toenail I mean, because that's going to help me plot some points as well, but I think overall this isn't too bad. underneath the toe here. Alright, let's put a toenail on this and then we can get an idea of how we want to finish it. So let's move this over and give ourselves a bit of mesh to work with. Okay. So how I do toenails, I basically mask off the area. So we'll kind of draw on, I don't want to do that. We'll kind of draw on a toe and we'll invert it, and then we'll move it around a little bit using the widget tool and the move tool and make it look like a toenail. So if you just draw in roughly where you think a toenail might go. So I don't, the reason I'm trying to like bring it further around to the top is because I don't want it to feel like an ingrowing toenail. So a toenail grows down and in like this when you end up with an ingrowing toenail. So I'm trying to just keep it close to the top. Okay, so with that masked off, flip the mask. And we're going to rotate it a little like that to sort of create the toe shape a little. So can you see what I've done there? Let's push it in a bit more just to overemphasize it. Now again, because I like this crease here, I don't want to move it all the way down in one hit, you know. So what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll, using the move tool, I'll pull it over the top a little, and it gives us that sort of edge of a toenail. I get that. It might be, yeah, we need to do that again. So another thing to be cautious of when you're doing this type of thing is that you don't want it to look like monster claws, right? So we need to drag this back down around the toe a tiny bit. So if we aim into the toe, it's going to pull down. Yeah, you can see it pulling down a bit. So what, yeah, like what we're not looking for is monster toenails, like where they kind of come up and off of it like eagle's claws or something, you know? That's definitely not what human toes look like. So giving ourselves a little bit of a toenail shape there. We'll remove the mask and smooth that out a little. And then we can start working on cleaning up this edge a little bit. So let's just smooth that a tiny piece. That doesn't look too bad. And we'll just, with the crease tool again, we'll just make sure we cut back in to redefine some of these shapes of where the toenail goes. Yeah, I like that. So I wouldn't, you don't need to go mad here with these, like you know, again, it depends what you want or what you're trying to get from your sculpt, but this is like, although close up it feels like not a lot of detail. When we move away from it in a second, you'll see that it actually looks kind of reasonable. So again, it really depends what you want from your toenail. I mean, if you're going to be like here inspecting the toenail, then yeah, I'd crank the mesh up a little bit more. But like if we're out here, that's an acceptable toenail. I'll give it a little bit more of a smooth along these edges. Oh, come on. Come back in as well and add like a knuckle, sort of like for here. So again, like remember we said earlier, there's only one knuckle in the big toe, so it'll bend here and it'll bend in here somewhere. So yeah, maybe even further up. Like the bend is slightly behind the pad of the foot, so it might be further up here. But yeah, the big toe doesn't have 3 joints in it like most phalanges. So I think that once we smooth some of this out a little bit more, that's going to look alright. And one last thing we'll do, because it's starting to feel a bit flat, push some of this back through here. Oh, come on, why is this doesn't... There we go. And I think that's not too bad. The shape of the toe is still a little off to me. I think it feels flat along this edge. So I'll finish this toe and I'll see how the video camera's doing, and then maybe set up another recording. So that feels a little better already. Yeah, I mean, that's not too bad. Okay, that's not too bad. So there we have it. That's our first toe. Yeah, that's not bad. So I think what I'll do, I'll quickly restart that camera so that we can do maybe a time lapse of these last few toes. Or maybe I'll just keep going with it because they should only take like 5 minutes-ish a toe. Yeah, I'm going to reset the camera real quick and we'll keep going with this. Right, let's get these last few toes sculpted up and wrap up this video. I haven't decided if I'm going to do this as a time lapse yet, but we'll get to that. Okay, so excuse me. I've had a cold recently, so my apologies, everybody. So let's do what we did before. We'll add some more. I've got a stitch now, obviously. Oh, so annoying. Alright, so we'll add some more geometry to underneath and around the toes. Just so that we've got some mesh to work with while we add these toenails in and just finish the toe sculpt up a little bit. Moving it all the way down there out of the way so people can't see. Okay, so I think we've got enough to work with there. Let's do the same as what we've been doing on the big toe. So let's mark out this next toe a little. Again, remembering it goes round this way, and the top of the foot, you're going to be able to see the toes are going to look a bit longer from the top, I think, than they are from the bottom, because we've got that fat pad of the foot underneath. I think what we'll do, because this is the next toe, I think it's the toe after this, it starts to look like they're tucking around underneath. So this toe feels like it should be a little bit more substantial. Okay, so let's cut in. Remembering that this guy has the extra joint in it. I can add some creases accordingly, I guess. Let's just cut those in a little more. Stupid thing. Switch, damn you. There we go. So that's given us roughly the shape what we need. I might need to mask this off and move it around a little more, but we'll see how we go. It's so annoying that it won't switch with just the tap. I don't know if it's me, this is user error, but that's annoying. Okay, so let's put this toe on here so we can get an idea of where the rest of this foot's going to go. So same again, I mean these toes are like, obviously because they're smaller, the whole foot is slightly smaller. Sorry, the whole toe is thinner. Might be that it's got more joints in it as well, so maybe there's less toenail there. But we're going to just basically do the same thing we did before, and just rotate this up to create that toenail look. We're going to do the same again because look, we don't want to move it down. We've got that nice edge there, so we'll do the same again. Slightly down towards the toe so that we're pulling down and across the toe a little. And yeah, we just want to create that sort of like toenail edge, you know. We'll get back in and sort of like curve it up so that we've got that curl over the top of the toe. And then I think we can remove the mask and start sculpting this toe up a little bit. I'm so sorry about the sniffing, it's so frustrating. It's cold here as well now. Alright, so let's redefine the edge of that toenail a little more with the crease tool. I'm going to do the same again around the front. It's just to define that edge. Now I think we'll go through the toe again like we did on this one, and we'll just start adding knuckles to this thing. So bearing in mind that the last knuckle's up here, it'll probably end up being like 1, 2 at the bend, and a third knuckle here. So that feels about right. I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. Darn this cold. Wish it would just go away. So it's the same sort of routine, but we're working with the extra knuckle. And like I said, these are going to start tucking underneath soon, so we're going to I'm going to start sort of putting the toenail round here a little bit more. When we get to like maybe these last two, I'll start tucking the toenail around that way a little more. But yeah, you see where I'm going with it? I'll clean this edge here a little. I don't want it to feel like, yeah, that's better. Yeah, it started to feel a bit like this toe was digging into that one rather than pressing against it. We've got a little bit there that needs to be popped out. Excuse me. And there we go, there's the next toe. So right, let's just keep going. I guess we want some meat around this side of it. So remembering that now these toes are going to start to like curl up underneath each other this way. So let's chop some of that out because it's like protruding a little much. Oh, my nose is so annoying. Let's chop that back, there we go. How's that looking on the top? Let's chop in there and mark, let's define the edge of this toe here a little. Oh, this goddamn nose. Excuse my language. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, so let's keep going. So the toes are going to get smaller, but just it'll be slight. But they'll get smaller as we go down, obviously, because smaller toes. And again, the feet are very knobbly, I guess is a word for it. So you know, I don't think any of this has to be perfection. Let's twist that around. Oh, let's twist that around that way. Let's flip the mask. Actually, I'll do the whole thing. Let's keep this toe going. Oh, it's so annoying. It's not switching. I'm going to unmask this toe because I feel like there's something I want to do, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Why? I think the toes all need to start coming down a little. I think when we start oh, that's the shop downstairs. So yeah, I think we'll mask this toe off so we can work with it solo. Oh, it's cold. Okay. Is annoying me. I'm so sorry, guys. I think I'm going to move that toe now as well. That toenail. 12 minutes. We're not doing too bad. Let's reverse that and pull down these toes a little on the outside. Yeah, so because, yeah, okay, so I see what was going on. The toes weren't actually curling down like you'd expect. And I think, again, because we haven't sculpted out this pad of the foot, it looked like it was supposed to be flat. So I think what we'll do, once we've sculpted all of these toes up, we'll just nudge these toes around a little and make them look better. Okay, so now that we've done that and we've figured out what's going on there, let's sculpt up this last toe. Oh. So bearing in mind, like I said before, the toes are going to start to slightly push round and underneath each other a little now. Again, it depends on the pose. Like you can see the pinky here particularly, and this toe, they definitely tuck round and under. Let's cut some of that toe into here. So I'm not too worried about this here. I'm going to sculpt another piece underneath the toe. It's going to sort of like nudge round again like this one does here. So let's just cut this back in. Come back around the front here. And just mark this out so that we've got our toe where we need it. We'll start sculpting that up a little. So again, gently on the brush, on the pen. I don't think you need to go bonkers with it, but just take your time. Like, just look at what you're doing. Take your time over it. You know, I mean, I'm obviously rushing it a little bit to try and get it finished in a reasonable time. But yeah, I mean, if it's something that you're not really used to, or you're trying to figure it out, just take your time over it, guys. There's no need to rush. Don't be like me and rush these things. Let's give it a tiny lip on the edge of the toe. On the edge of the toenail, sorry. Just so that you've got, like, you know, that doesn't look terrible. And again, like, I think we're going to start seeing the toes curl down underneath a little more as we move on. So I think I'm going to pull that toe down. Oh. I'm going to pull that toenail down just a little more, because I'm not getting enough of an edge from it, you know. Switch, there we go. Yeah, it's just because I want to make sure that we've got a sort of like lip there, you know, just so that it matches with the rest of it and everything like that. So let's undo and mask that. We'll work on this crease around the toe a little more. Probably smooth it off across the top. Oh, it's so frustrating. It's when I switch to the smooth brush. add these knuckles in again. Maybe another one up here somewhere near the edge of the foot. And then one slightly further back up here. So what you want to do, this is being kind of frustrating today. What you want to do is like build it up round this way, because you want it to feel like the toes are twisting slightly back around under the foot. This one's the one that's very slight. Hopefully we can push that into these last two a little more than we have on this one. For now. And again, you know, what you want from this, how far you push these is it really just depends on what you want from the sculpt. I don't think that for this particular sculpt I'm worried about going like really overly detailed with it. I just want to give you a rough idea and make it still look reasonable. So because this is a more defined line here, I kind of want to redefine it because it doesn't match with the rest of it. So let's push that back out over the top. That feels a little better. This first one's very defined so that it's clear to see. That might be a bit much. That's not terrible. That's not too bad. Excuse me, how long? We've got 20 minutes. Okay, so we might run out of time on the camera. If that camera switches off, I'll just run a time lapse till the end. But it might switch off. I don't know yet. I might just go back and reset the camera so that we can get the whole thing recorded and get the last couple of toes on the camera as well. I'll see how I feel, guys. But again, I wanted this one to feel like another sculpt along, so something you could watch me do and either try and follow along, which probably be difficult for people that are relatively new. But you know, you can pause it, see how you feel, guys. As long as there's somebody out there that finds this useful, I'm happy. And again, none of this is an exact science either. You know, we could probably mask some of this off and bring that middle toe next to it over slightly. Just to make this toe a little tiny bit smaller. I don't know if we need to, but we can try it. I feel like that's maybe, yeah, that maybe works. Okay. Just trying to find that next toe. Is it getting wider? Are the toes getting wider? They feel like they're getting a little wider. I'm going to pause this. Actually, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to go and reset the camera because it's going to run out any second. So let's save it. Okay, camera's reset. We've got like another 25 minutes. So let's get these last couple of toes done. I'm going to show you the finished result. We might do a little bit more under there as well, add a bit more meat to the underside of the foot. But yeah, we're very nearly there. So let's get this last couple of toes done. little. That toe looks a bit wonky. We might rotate all of these toes in a little bit. We'll just see. But this one here particularly feels a bit wonky. Do you know what? Let's actually just fix it now, because it shouldn't take long. So we're just going to mask it off and twist it a tiny piece, because the rest of the toe feels okay. Even under here doesn't feel too bad. So I think it's just literally the toenail. We put the toenail in a dodgy place. So that's my bad. So as long as the whole toenail is selected, we're good. We're golden. Let's go from the top. So it doesn't look too bad from the top. It's from like here, you can tell it's pretty wonky. So let's rotate that back into a decent-ish position. That's not too bad. Give it a smooth, because we're going to obviously have some dodgy mesh, particularly where we've rotated it. It's not too bad. Okay, so that's that. Our toe looks better. Let's get back to these toes before we run out of time again. I want to try and do these without resetting the video again, so let's get going. Again, just to give it that slight edge over the toenail, sorry. And we'll do the same as what we've been doing, because these your toenails aren't flat, so I think it's important to just give them that little concaved edge. Same again, we'll come in and we'll redefine some of these positions where maybe it's moved out a little. Into here. I think we can get right in here and move some of this flesh underneath as well. So same again, give that a slight redefine there. So again, like we want it to feel slightly like it's pushing under, so we're going to give more credence to this curve here, and the same when we get to here, we're going to push like some of this toe right underneath, and we'll probably have that toenail on the outside edge there somewhere, like around here somewhere. So let's get these edges tidied up a little. Add those knuckles into it. Maybe redefine that edge a little as well. Let's add some of those knuckles on there like we did on the other ones. So everything's going to be sort of like coming around this way and getting a little closer together. So we'll have this knuckle up here a tiny bit. This one should probably be a bit further back too. Same here, and then we'll come across here for this one. We'll add some of that height on here for the bones. And let's get this little guy smoothed out. I think we need a little bit of meat here because it feels a little, I don't know, it feels a little sunken. So again, looking at how long this has taken us, we probably won't do a second foot pose. If you want to see something like that, I'm working on a sculpture of Chun-Li at the moment, and she's in like a ballerina or a yoga pose. I'm not sure which. I think it's in both, but it's something like Natarajasana. I'm probably absolutely butchering that, but she's doing like a standing split, and I just thought it was a cool pose, a different pose to do. And like, point being is that like in that pose you see the foot from like here, she's got her toes pointed over like she's pointing with her big toe, you know, so it's a different version of the foot sculpt. But if you want to see, you know, it's the same process, guys, but if you want to see a different foot sculpt, rather than do it in this video, I'll probably just leave that for in the Chun-Li video, but that will be a time lapse. So yeah, you'll have to either, you know, slow it down, maybe maybe set the playback speed on the video, you know, to be a bit slower. So here we go. So with this last knuckle, we'll put that like on the edge here to give it so it is then following this shape, you know. The little toe looks wide, so we'll push some of this in a minute. I think still what I'm going to do first is get this last toenail on so that I know where I'm working to. So I filled out a little bit more meat here because I want it to feel like it's rolling under. I'll define that edge just a tiny bit. I think we could probably do with a bit more meat around here on the toe. Let's cut into that a little. So we're very nearly there, guys. I mean, you know, again, there's more detail to it. You can see all the creases under the foot here and stuff like that. We're not going to go into that today. This is more just to show, you know, a base, give you a base to work from. So I think we're going to grab all of that and nudge that in a tiny bit. So I think what we'll do, we'll grab the knuckles at the top and we'll start rotating them out a little tiny bit and maybe push some of this back in so that it's not as wide on the outside. Okay, so let's get this last little toe going, see what we can do. And we've got 10 minutes. Okay, so let's tuck some of that away. Let's define this edge and this gap under here. Yeah, we're nearly there, guys. This isn't actually looking too bad for something that I tried to put together quite quickly. The toe's not looking too bad. The foot is not looking too bad. Okay, last one. Got a rough shape of it now. I want to sort of like have the toenail rotated round a little. I don't want it to look like she's got dodgy club feet. Some of these toenails are a bit wonky as well, so I might fix them up a little in a minute. Maybe I've overdone it a little there. But again, you don't like, this isn't something that you need to nail first try, you know. You can, you know, get the rough shape in, get, at least if you've got everything there, you can start working on it, you know, adding more detail or changing it however you may see fit. Also, again, like, this is not the maximum topology that you could probably be using for this. You could probably push it a little bit more with the topology. It really depends, you know, like if you've got a model like with Chun-Li, she's only her arms and feet are exposed because she's got her classic blue leggings and top on, right? The leggings, I think it's a DLC from Street Fighter 4, maybe, I can't remember. But yeah, she's not wearing the classic outfit with the dress with the split in it or whatever, or the skirt, or battle outfit as they called it in the game. She's wearing her like gym gear, so she's, yeah, just at the gym, I guess. And you know, you be the judge when you see it, but yeah, if you want to see like a different type of foot sculpt in a different position, then keep an eye out for the Chun-Li video that I'm working on. It should be soon. But because, again, I haven't put anything out in a while, it's been a couple of weeks, I've been busy, I've also been ill. So yeah, I just thought I'd quickly record this today. I say quickly. Alright, I think we'll add a little bit of chunk to the bottom of the feet. This little triangle part here. I don't think that that's too bad. I mean, for a foot, I'd be happy with that. Again, it really depends what you're trying to get, what you're trying to do with it. What exactly you're gonna, how much of it you're gonna see, even. You know, so use your best judgment when it comes to this type of stuff. But but as long as the forms are there, the shapes, and it's got the basic, you know, you've shown the basic understanding, I guess, of the foot, then it shouldn't be too bad. I think we're nearly done. Yeah, I think this, we're going to call this done, I think. We'll maybe cut into those toes a little more. Just do a gentle pass on the toes. Just to, you know, define them a little bit more, because we have just done a whole bunch of smoothing under the foot. And I'm going to go ahead and say that is not bad. So there, oh wait, actually let's, because I don't want it to look like they've got twiglet feet, let's actually straighten up these toes a tiny bit, these toenails. It shouldn't take long, what, we've got 16 minutes, yeah, it shouldn't take long. So basically they're just not square. So what we're going to go ahead and do is mask them off, flip it. I'm going to try and just square these toes up a little bit, because they do look a bit weird. So now I think this corner here needs to come over a little. Maybe we'll redefine the edge of this toe a little bit as well, because it has just been moved quite drastically. This one should be pretty easy. We just want to tuck that down there a little. Oh. So this toe just feels weird because it's got like this type of shape going on with the actual toenail. Oh, there goes my light. This my this tells me I'm going to run out of time soon. That I don't think looks too bad. So let's give it a tiny little bit of a smooth, and then I think we'll spin around it and have a little, oh, I've overdone it on that. Redefine some of these at toe edges again, and then I think we're done. So that is basically how I would make a foot. I'm relatively pleased with that. It's not terrible. It's not the best foot I've ever sculpted, but it is a foot nonetheless. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Feet. That is roughly how I would handle feet. There's more to do here. I don't like this. Let's have one more little spin at this. I don't like this shape here. I just realised it. I think that needs to be a bit more arched that way. I think it needs to come up a tiny bit. So maybe. Yeah, that whole first toe was like kind of low. But yeah, you there you have it, a foot. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll probably do a hand at some point. So, you know, I could probably sculpt an ear, that wouldn't take too long. You know, just talk you through how it is and things like that, and just some basic stuff about it. But yeah, I mean, let me know if there's anything you want me to do a sculpt of. You know, like anatomy wise, we can start doing just the odd tutorial here and there on things that people struggle with. I could sculpt a leg or an arm, or, you know, sculpt up a torso and just show you how I go through that. But yeah, leave it in the comments. And I'll take a look through. I do read all of the comments because, like I said, I don't get that many. So while I still don't get very many comments, I'm able to read through them. So if there's anything you'd like to see, then give me a shout, and I'll see what I can do for you guys, or anything that you're struggling with. You know, I can try and figure it out and explain to you what I've learned about it. But I don't know everything about sculpting, guys, you know, so some of it you'll probably ask me something and I'll be like, groovy, I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that. But yeah, let me know in the comments, interact with the video, let me know what you want to see, and I'll do my best for you, for everybody, to have something for everybody that's helpful to everybody, I should say. So yeah, like, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it every time. If you found this useful, like and subscribe. Share the video with anyone that you think might, you know, find it helpful. And yeah, you know, keep practicing, and I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Happy sculpting.